YouTube, and we are live. We are here. Let's get it. What's going on, guys? It's Logan. It's EJ. Welcome to SwampCast. We're live. We're back. Let's get it. Very, very excited for this episode today, man. We got a lot to talk about. I like doing these, these episodes every few weeks in the off season because so much stuff happens. We got so much to talk about regarding these off season moves that the Gators have made, and trust me, there are plenty of them. As you guys see by the thumbnail and by the title, there's a lot of movement going on, a lot of people coming to the program, a lot of people leaving the program. We're going to dive into all the pros and cons with that. Are they good? Are they bad? How much is it going to impact this upcoming season and the future of Gator football and Billy Napier's future? We're going to dive into Gator basketball, man, which I think, I think there was a big mock bracket that they did, and the Gators were like number one, right, on that bracket. It was something insane.
We be hooping.
Yes,
we be
sir.
hooping.
It's us and Auburn for that number one spot, and we beat Auburn. So next we have next we have is the Gator baseball season started with a nice sweep on the Air Force team, which is we're gonna talk a little bit about that, and then the Super Bowl reaction. Wild game. Watch that with one of my good friends, which is a big Eagles fan. So that was a pretty exciting sight to see. He actually went up to the Super Bowl party up in Philadelphia as well, the parade, which he had a fun time at. But EJ, how you feeling, man? How are you doing? It is early February, well, mid-February, I guess now. This month's flying by compared to, I feel like January was like 3 months together, and then now February is like flying by. I don't know how you feel about that, but I hear a lot of people saying that, and I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what it felt like.
Well, the best thing about this time of year is, or at least for me, is after Valentine's Day, all the people that were trying to get fit and hogging up all the space at the gym, 50% of them got dumped. So now gyms are now going to be free for us to have some more room to work out. Yay.
About time.
So other than that, never a dull moment. Gator baseball has started up. We love our Gator baseball team. Omaha is, I feel like it's like Gainesville 2.0 at this point. And then we've got Gator basketball. I mean, we're ripping the nets out here. And then a lot of moves in football that we're going to talk about, which is very interesting. But hey, it's got to work out. We got to see if it's going to work out. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. So EJ, let's go ahead and dive into some of the stuff going on in the Gator football world. So let's start with some of the additions to this Gator football program. EJ, you got the same thing pulled up as me. So we'll just kind of alternate. Like, I'll go first, you go second, and we'll just kind of go guy by guy. Starting out with, this was like 2 days after we did our stream a couple weeks back. Robert Bala, he's an inside linebackers coach from Washington under Jed Fish out there, who's also a Gator alumni. We hired him as our inside linebackers coach and co-defensive coordinator. So we have like four I think we literally have three co-defensive coordinators now on this football team. I want to hear your opinion on this, EJ, because like, is he getting paid more with that label? Is it just a label? Why do you need a label like co-DC if there's already two co-DCs? When I hear co-DC, I think of two guys, but whatever. We'll expand on that. He follows Vinny Sunseri. I think that's how you say his name. You said it right, EJ. What is it? Is it Sunseri?
Yeah, it's Sunseri.
Sunseri. There we go. I butchered it the first time. I've been working on it. So standing in front of a mirror, saying it like 5 times in a row. But he followed him from Washington to Gainesville. Now, what I like about Robert Bala, he was a linebackers coach under Nick Saban at Alabama at one point. So Nick Saban, obviously a guy who trusted this dude to run his linebackers, which is, saying a lot, is a big plus, I would say, for this hire. So, EJ, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about another co-DC on this team? I know a lot of fans have been talking about it. It's very confusing. Obviously, when you have a label like co-DC, you have some more authority if you didn't have it, right? So is it a payment thing? Is it just trying to get this guy to come out here so he can be labeled as a co-DC for future jobs? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, usually when something like this happens, it's kind of like a package deal. Sinceri bringing out Bala, I guess. Is it Bala? Are we gonna say Bala?
Ball is a dope name, dude. Call him
Yeah, I'm
Balla.
like, okay,
Yeah,
are we
we're
balling?
balling,
Bala.
baby.
He's a baller. He's a baller. Okay, okay, Robert Bala. So it's usually like a package deal. And Sinceri got a promotion, and so he's probably saying, "Hey, in order for me to come, I got to bring Bala out here. He's my right hand, and he's got to have a promotion too to come out here." Because if you're thinking about it, where he was at Washington, was it at the
Yeah,
Washington?
yeah, he was Huskies.
So I mean, the way that I mean, Florida, we look at Florida as being a much better program. We're in the SEC. Actually won national championships. We see ourselves as a higher level job, but in the coaching world, given Florida hasn't won a championship in 15, 20 years, they're probably looking at it as it's kind of a lateral move. So you gotta sweeten the pot a little bit. And looking at Bala's background, I mean, he's got a kind of diverse background with all the different positions he's worked in. He had a short stint with the Oakland Raiders, so he's got a professional spin on his experience. He's coached pretty much all the different positions. I mean, he's coached linebackers, he's coached cornerbacks, he's coached safeties. He's been a DC before, special teams coordinator. Maybe, hey, what an idea! Somebody that's actually coached special teams. Gainesville. Maybe we should have hired Baller. We're calling him Baller. That's only if we start missing tackles, he's not balling anymore.
And then it's a problem.
Because last year we were actually tackling people. So he's worked at. I just looked up his different experiences. I mean, he's worked at NAIA, which is like, I think that's junior college, FCS, FBS, NFL. So the guy knows a little bit of everything. Um, he's got big program experience over there. He coached with Alabama for a little bit. So, to me, I think this feeds into Napier's sort of what we know Napier best at, which is identifying coaches who and agreeing to bring on coaches who aren't the big names. So like not like the Chip Kelly or the wait, who's the Oklahoma State defensive coordinator? His name's kind of like
Jim
he's
Knowles.
not Jim Beyonce Knowles. We're not bringing on people like that. But just like when Napier brings on these recruits that weren't too highly touted, weren't the big names, but he gets guys, like a Jaden Baugh was a high recruit, but he wasn't like infinity stars and everybody's going after him, right? But he comes to us, and then like Dallas Wilson, he's a big name. As soon as he comes to Florida, what happens? He loses like 3 or 4 stars. He loses like 2 stars. He's like 3 star now. So now we get these guys who can really play. Uh, Nobody else really thinks that highly of them, and we got to hope that they can hit. So that's what this kind of reminds me of. Number one, it was a package deal with Sinceri. Sinceri probably wanted to bring him over and said, I'm not coming if you can't bring my guy over. There's some room on this coaching staff. We brought him over. We had to give him a little promotion. And I don't know, looking at it, he's been everywhere. Now I don't know if that means he knows what the heck he's doing, because the only thing I want to see is, are we tackling? Are we getting stops on third down? Or are we continuing to force turnovers? Because if we come over here with that soft, like Washington, they were good 2 years ago, but guess what? DeBoer was over there, but guess what? Last year, people were running wild on them. So if you come over here and people are running wild on us, not a good look.
you just want to see good fundamental football, right? And and
Exactly.
something that we haven't really seen in the past, with the Florida Gators. We really only saw good defense in the second half of last year. And
Yep.
before that, when was the last time the Gators had a good defense? 2019, Todd Grantham's first few years of being there, right? Um, 2018. So yeah,
Yeah.
I really hope we can keep this momentum up. And we're gonna get into why I'm a little worried that we gained momentum and then we got rid of a guy like Will Harris, right? Which we'll get into in a bit.
Mhm.
It's like we have momentum and then we're bringing in new guys. I don't know how I feel about that. Why not ride this wave and ride this high? But you got to trust Billy Napier here. We'll see. I mean, you had to film that. You had to fill that Austin Armstrong gap. When he went off to go be defensive coordinator for Houston. So, and the way to do that, they wanted Vinny. You bring in Vinny, and then Vinny says, "I'm not coming unless you bring this guy." And if you really want Vinny, you got to bring in this guy, right? So yeah, we'll time will tell. Time will tell. But just a hire that I'm pretty excited for. I think a guy that once again was the linebackers coach under Nick Saban at Alabama, and a guy that, like you said, has NFL experience. I think is going to be huge, right? And knows football. So, which you could tell Billy Napier really puts an emphasis on when it comes to hiring people. Next addition to the team here, we have two kind of, I guess, behind the scenes guys. There's a lot of teams doing this now, where they hired GMs, general managers, or assistant ADs, associate ADs is what they call them. A friend of mine, Lee Davis, is someone who is that position. She was the AD, associate AD, and also the GM, I guess, of the football team for UCF, and then she just followed Dan Mullen to UNLV, out there for the same position, I believe. So teams are doing this. It's as we get closer to more professional styled football, right, with contracts and you know paying these players millions of dollars like the NFL. You're going to see us take on a more NFL format, I believe. EJ, I feel like we are going to go eventually 10 years from now to a two conference league. I really do believe we're going to see something like that. We're already kind of in that now, right, with the SEC and Big Ten. It's like, yeah, you have the Big 12, but they could easily join the SEC or they're nothing. You have Arizona
Right.
State. Um,
ACC. No. No.
exactly. It's there's a big gap there. So I think we're going to that. So anyways, point is GM is something that I think that's where college football is going. I think it's important that the Gators are taking this route and once again takes a little bit off of Billy Napier's back. Now, here's my thing, EJ. Well, we'll get into this. Let me talk about Nick Polk first. So this is a guy who has 20 years pretty much of NFL experience. He was with the Falcons for like years and years, dude. And he for the Falcons was like a behind the scenes guy of like football operations and did a lot of trading for the Falcons and roster management and budgeting, and that's kind of what he's gonna be doing for the Gators. EJ, and you could expand on that a little bit for what they said in some of these articles, but yeah, um, having a guy come in, I think it's going to be nice to take a little bit off ability, especially NIL. That's something I think he's really going to focus on, is what they said. NIL, which is huge. The Gators have a pretty good NIL, top 10 NIL program here when it comes to money. So having a guy that knows once again how to distribute funds that have a cap limit, like the NFL, right? Or you don't have a cap limit in college football, so it's even harder in the NFL, right, to have these professional players and spend all this money. With an actual ceiling. So I think that now he doesn't have that ceiling. It's going to be really interesting to see how he's able to distribute these funds and bring in some good guys when it comes to the transfer portal, which now is pretty much free agency. So I think getting these NFL guys like Nick Polk in here is going to be really, really big and important for the Florida Gators moving forward in this program. So yeah, what do you think about this hire, EJ? Guy has NFL experience coming in and is going to be taking on that general manager position.
Yeah. So I was trying to look up really quick as we were talking about um, Nick Polk County. Hey. Um, but it's interesting that, to your point, college football programs are having to um, go out and create a little bit of structure from this external business environment when there really isn't a lot of structure from the NCAA. So typically, prior to NIL and transfer portal, and everyone's got an agent and all this, that, and the other, um, things were very structured. There were rules. You can't do this. You can do that. And as a result, there was no need for these positions in NCAA because we're amateur. There's really no money that's being exchanged between a lot of different parties. But now that you have that, and it's very confusing out there, a position like I think they're calling the associate AD and football general manager uh, is needed. So he has experience with that. The interesting thing is in the NFL, there's still structure. College is still very ambiguous. And so it'll be interesting to see who gets ahead in the game. To me, Ohio State is sort of like way ahead of us in terms of testing the boundaries of what is allowed and being able to get money to where it needs to flow to get the players and get the coaches to be able to produce.
It's paying off.
And it paid off. I mean, they didn't beat Michigan, but hey, look at what they did. They just ran through everyone like a freight train. So it looks like Nick Polk is going to oversee the front office, and that will include four pretty much key categories. So the revenue share and NIL. So that's going to be interesting because it's going to be how does money flow to the players from their third party NIL agreements? Making sure there's equity for all the players. Because what happens is when NIL first came out, is you had players going out and getting their agents, getting these deals, and then you had several players on your roster who had no clue what they were supposed to be doing, and they got nothing. And so now you've got huge disparity and no equity across the players. Everyone should be getting something, right? And because the NCAA hasn't come out with, they're saying they're going to come out with it, but they haven't yet, where everyone gets paid at least a foundational payment. And then on top of that, if you want to create all this jib jabber, you get this deal, you get that deal, that's fine. So he's going to ensure that there's equity across, everyone's getting something, and everyone's got a NIL plan. That'll be great. Student athlete contract negotiations. He's going to oversee that. This is very important. When you're 17, 16, 17, some of these kids are now in high school. They got NIL in high school and middle school now. So, well, at least they're getting experience before they get to college. But how are you working through that before you get to the college level? That's important. Remember, you don't take individual finance class when you're in high school or college. You learn how to run finance for like a Fortune 500 company in UF business school, but not your own budget. so hopefully he'll teach them that, or at least oversee a process where they learn that. He's going to oversee the football budget, and that's what I was trying to look up. Is like when I read that, I was like, okay, what is our football budget? I know that from a revenue standpoint. So listen to this. Listen to this. I just looked this up. CNBC. That's where you go when you want to know finance. Ohio State. Why are they number one? Why are they winning national championships like it's nothing? 1.3 billion valuation for their. Is this athletics or football? I think it's football.
Really?
Or is it athletics?
I think that might be athletics.
Okay, let's say it's athletics. They're number one. University of Florida. Okay, we're all the way down at number 14 according to CNBC, 865 million. It's kind of interesting because I always think of us as like the everything school where we do all these sports, but makes sense. University of Texas at Austin, 1.2 billion. Texas A&M, 1.26 billion. the two oil money schools are up there, obviously. Michigan is number 4, 1.06 billion. University of Alabama, 978 million. So when you think about that, you got to be valued at $1 billion, 1.3 billion to be in the top 5. And when you look at Ohio State, Texas A&M, Michigan, Alabama, these are the top programs. And when you're dealing with that much money, you do need someone in there that's going to help you figure out um, how that money is creating a return on investment for you. Ohio State, clearly they figured out how to create a return on investment here. So if we're spending $865 million, top 14, what's the expectation? The expectation really isn't for us to, um, you know, win the national championship because we're not in the top 5. So we got to figure that out. And hopefully, this position that he's in is going to help us increase our return on investment. Roster management was the third thing that he's going to be over, which is interesting because it's kind of like, I thought that was a head coach's job, but given the general manager in like MLB, they control the roster. So I'm assuming what that means is, given the maximum number of NIL deals that we can have at any given time, the economy is only so big for certain programs, right? Meaning you can only create so many NIL contracts and get so much money out of it. So he's going to try to work on that and allow that to maximize the potential for our roster, so that when you get to the end of the season, we've got a lot of money that can go to players and we can build a roster because of the money that we have, as opposed to some of your best players leaving. Now, maybe some of your best players are going to leave regardless, but whatever. But you got to be able to then replace them with really good players. And right now, who the hell have we brought in? We haven't. Billy, you're too worried about offensive plays that we haven't brought in anybody. So hopefully this guy is going to be like, okay, Billy, name of the game is roster management, buddy. Guess what? You lose Jack Pyburn. He was actually pretty good when he was out there. Who the hell are you bringing in? We got to bring somebody in to replace that production. Not just replace that production, be better than what that production was. So it's roster management. I love that word, roster management. It's a beautiful word, right? We haven't been saying it a lot here because apparently Ohio State's the only one that does it. So maybe Nick Polk County is going to come in here and figure it out for us.
So, okay, a couple different things I want to expand on. Number one, so did they say that they're gonna try to find they're gonna try to do a college football flat income level for every player? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Really?
They're looking at having a situation where the money flows from the university to the players.
That's nice.
And there's a minimum salary component, but it's like legally, I think the last time I read it, there was a lot of legalese, because does this mean the players can create a union? Because like the NBA, there's a union.
Right.
And then when you have a union, the union negotiates on behalf of the player. And then it's like, well, we don't want that because we have NIL. And it's kind of like, okay, people, you all wanted people to get paid. They're trying to get you paid, and now you're saying that you don't want it. So make up your mind. So that's number one. Number two, we need a situation where, okay, we're paying the players, so now there's no real reason for someone to transfer for NIL. I can go get some more NIL somewhere else. No, you get the same everywhere.
That's smart. Yeah. You need some kind of stability within this process. And AJ, what pisses me off most about it is the fact that the NCAA just approved this with no regulations. There's more. I mean, there's more regulations now than there were before. And the thing is, like you were saying, you have teams like Ohio State trying to find this boundary of how far you can go because the rules are so vague. The NCAA has not
Right.
laid out anything when it comes to specifics on NIL, when it comes to budgeting, when it comes to how much you can spend on a player. Like there's no foundation or structure to this, and I'm glad they need to go forward with that right now. Like I don't understand how that's
Yeah.
even a like I understand you got to talk to each individual university and figure that out, but like I don't see how a university would really be against that. Because like you were saying, that's going to keep your players there. Because there might be you might make a little bit more money, but I don't understand. Let's take the Florida Gators and the University of Texas, right? You're telling me that if you're the starting running back for the Gators, you're going to make that much more NIL going to Texas and playing there? I mean, maybe a little bit, but the University of Florida, I feel like we're still up there. I mean, we're still a top 10 NIL university right now in college football. So, like you were saying, if there's a flap now, will Texas pay more money? Probably because they got the oil money out there. You know what I mean? You got these really rich Texans
Right.
out there that made, you know, I mean, just hundreds of millions of dollars on oil and these old farmers. But my point is like, yeah, I think if we have a kind of that surface level payment, that'll keep your players here. I don't understand why universities would be against that, but like you said, then you got the union thing, and they this all should have been figured out from the get go, right? And the fact that we're now talking about this, what, 2 years, 3 years after NIL has been in motion, makes no sense. And I think that's the way to go. That's actually I never heard of that, and I'm glad you brought that up. And I wanna, if you see any articles or anything, EJ, send that to me, and I'm gonna do some research after this as well because that's super intriguing. And I wanna dive deep into that because I think everyone can get on board with that. Like I hate NIL, and I think that's amazing. Because like it says, there's something keeping the players there. I'm still in favor of contracts. I think we're going that NFL route. We have to have something with contracts, right? Because I don't understand. My favorite thing is following the transfer portal account on Instagram. And every time someone enters the transfer portal and decommits and commits somewhere else, you'll see that they show their previous stops. And there was a guy that literally has transferred every single. It's like I'm playing NCAA on my PlayStation when I want to change schools every year. Like that's insane. There's a guy that's in his 6th year of college football. Every single year he's transferred somewhere else. What? What do we that like? Come on, like how is that? I don't even know why you would want that guy. I don't care if he has the talent level of of Ryan Williams or I don't care who it is, Jeremiah Smith. That just you have no loyalty to your program. What are you bringing to this program in the sense of teamwork, right? And building a genuine connection to your teammates and a good team chemistry. Nothing. And that has to be preserved in some way, whether
Yeah.
it is that base level payment, whether it is contracts, but we need to get down to it. I mean, we could talk about that for a while, but I think that'd be a really good thing to the sport. So yeah, I've never heard of that. They need to do that. I never even thought of that. That's genius.
Yeah, I just put a couple of articles in the Zoom chat. So yeah, it looks like April 7th is the final hearing for this whole NCAA $2.78 billion settlement to allow athletes or payments to come from the university to the athletes. So there's that. That looks like it's going to happen starting this season now, is what if it goes through. And then so you got to have so now you have to have a guy like Nick Polk if that happens. So then there was also a lawsuit. I can't find the update, but I forgot who brought this lawsuit on. But basically, there was a lawsuit filed by former players who were saying, "Now wait a minute. We came, we saw, we conquered. Y'all were kicking us off of rosters and suing us and suspending us. We want back payment for not being able to make money when we were in school. so 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 now there's a lawsuit to predate this because we didn't get money when we were in school.
Jesus.
So there's all these lawsuits going on. Um, I really think they probably should just have someone like at the federal government level just appointed to just like here are the rules now, uh, because it is getting kind of wild. But yeah, 2 point. It looks like this $2.78 billion settlement will mean $21.5 million salary cap for the schools, which is great
That's awesome.
because now at least there's a number.
Yeah.
But $21 million, man, that's a lot. But when you think about, I don't know if this is for football or if this is for all of your athletes. Either way, it's a lot of money.
What's the salary cap in the NFL? So for salary cap for teams, 2024 was 255.4 million. But it changes
for one team.
For one team, and it changes every year. But that's also NFL. Where like they also do these, once again, contracts. They do these 4 or 5 year contracts. So when you're paying Patrick Mahomes, 250 million over the span of like a couple years, you're gonna be spending a lot of money, 50 mil, $30 million a year. So that's very different with contracts. Yeah, I think that you said that 20 something $million number. I wish it was a little lower because, you can build a super team with that still, if you think about it. You could spend, but I guess that makes it even now, across the board. So, yeah, I mean, look, I think it's going to be college football. We're still in the infant form, right? When it comes to this whole thing, we're still learning to walk, and we're going to fall. And we're going to go through a couple years where it might be a little rough. Big change is gonna take time to adapt to, and it's new to all of us. And I really hope that whatever we do fall on, whatever plan, whatever format we do fall on, is the best one. And it's most likely not going to be the first format we create after all these lawsuits. It might be, but most likely not. So, like you said, I think having a commissioner or someone at the federal level kind of, displaying. I think that's what we need. And I don't know if we should have like a voting process for that. You know what I mean? Where the fans have some kind of say in it as a democracy, because, hey, this is the guy that we want to be leading this sport. I think that would be key. But they'll probably go, they'll have the schools do it. But I think that the fans, the ones that's giving you the money, the ones that's, literally filling your stadiums, with over 100,000 people each Saturday, I think that they should have a say in it. But it'll be interesting, man. Yeah, that's going to be a very intriguing next few years. No question.
Yeah, and everything that we just talked about is in this. So I'm assuming this is the whole athletic department, the 21.5 million. Because this doesn't just say football. So,
okay.
I mean, how many athletes are in a whole athletic department? 500? So, just off the top of my head, like 20 million divided by 500 is $50,000. So, it's not even like it's that much. But what this says is the settlement would establish a framework for regulating NIL deals and remove scholarship caps. So, does that mean we don't need scholarships anymore? Okay, now, like if you don't get scholarship, it's kind of like it's not even college anymore.
Right.
Like it's not even, and then yeah, the ongoing legal issues, which what I was reading about a few months ago, player unionization, employee status. So if they are employees, then they would be able to unionize depending on, I guess, what state you're in. And then are you like an at-will employee at that point? Because like in Florida, you're an at-will is an at-will state, meaning
Right.
I can just fire you. So I don't think you can just fire a player on your roster, can you? I mean, maybe you can, who knows? But what they need to also institute is they need to have the transfer portal. My wish is that forget the NIL, eliminate the transfer portal, because the transfer portal is really what causes this mayhem. Is because the spirit of this whole thing was players wanted to get paid. Okay, you're getting paid. Now it gets convoluted when you conflate the transfer portal because now I can hop in the portal and go wherever I want and they pay me more and pay me whatever. No, getting paid more was never the issue. Getting paid something was the issue, that the problem we were trying to solve. Okay? So now if you eliminate the transfer portal, you don't have to create all these rules where now you have to 20 million, 30 million, 40 million. It's everyone gets paid, everyone's happy. And if you transfer, guess what? You got to sit out. So that's the way that I would do it. I would just have them highly regulate the transfer portal, um, because people are saying, well, coaches leave all the time. No, coaches have a contract where it's like multiple years. And if a coach does leave, who's buying out the contract? Because last time I checked, when these players, Jack Pyburn, when he hopped in the portal, he said I was a Gator. He hopped in the portal. Next thing we know, he's an LSU Tiger. Did University of Florida get a red cent from him hopping in the portal? No. And guess what? The value, how much money, how much time, energy, time is more important than money. How much time that we invest in developing Jack Pyburn? How much money when you convert all that time, energy, and effort into dollars, how much was that worth to us? And now he's just hopping in
Mm.
the portal
Mm.
and we lose all that money.
That's a great point. That is a
You know what I mean?
great point. No, I think that's what college is about. Yes, when you go to the NFL, it's about developing a player, but in college, it's really that's probably the biggest development stage. And like you said, it's literally like you're creating this I don't know. It's like you're building a sandcastle from nothing in the sand. You build it up to be this great sandcastle, and someone just picks it up and takes it. It's just like,
Somebody just kicks it over.
yeah,
And I'm like, okay, we spent all this time building this thing.
right,
It's big and beautiful. It's going to win the competition.
right,
And now you stole the guy.
right.
So,
That's a
and we
great
don't get
point.
anything. They don't help us build it back.
It's a
We
great
got to
point.
go figure it out. So there needs to be contracts.
Yeah.
So people say, well, the coaches leave all the time. Last time I checked, 50% of coaches weren't in the coaches transfer portal. 60%. There's 60. There's 3,000 people, 4,000 people in the portal. I'm like, how many players are there? Everybody was in the portal. So, well, coaches leave all the time. Yeah, like 10% of them. And when they listen, this is what people need to understand. When coaches leave, it's because, and I think Coach Prime said this, you get either elevated or eliminated. You're going to a better situation or you get fired and then you have no choice but to go somewhere else. Players are just hopping in the portal for the hell of it. Oh, I'm hopping in the portal. Woo, portal dance. No. So
Yep.
we need some management, some regulation. It seems like everything blew up and now the dust is gonna settle. It's gonna say aftermath. What's the name of that video game? Fallout.
There you go.
We love Fallout. We play it all the time. Let's see what happens. It was a great show, by the way.
Oh, I haven't seen the show. I haven't seen the show. I gotta check. You know what show I have been watching? Sweet Magnolias on Netflix, dude. Go check it
Oh
out.
yeah.
No, another thing I want to mention is, you talked about how this guy's going to be doing the roster building and how a head coach usually does that. You know what really scares me, EJ? The reason that we hired Billy Napier was to be the CEO, general manager role. He seems like he's getting further and further away from that every single year and becoming more of an offensive coordinator. That is what's scaring me, man. That is what's really. I'm sure he's gonna be. I'm sure he's gonna be engaged in the whole, budget. I'm sure he's gonna have a part in it, 100%. That's Billy Napier's. That's what he's gonna do. But it's just like, it's like we hired you for one thing, and now he's doing this. He knows what he's doing because he wants to be an offensive guy. You know what I mean? He doesn't want to. I don't know. I think he knows what he's doing here, and he just. I don't know, EJ. I just feel like we hired him for one thing, and he's trying to become something else. What's your thoughts on that? That's what I've been seeing that, and I hate it. And we've talked about it so much about how Billy Napier has not been successful anywhere as an offensive coordinator. He literally got fired from Clemson. His offenses at Arizona State were in the 50s nationally. His offenses at Louisiana were good, but guess what? That was called the Sun Belt. He has not been good at the G5 or now G4 level, or not G5. The power 4, whatever we are now. I don't even know what we are. Power 2 basically at this point. He has not been successful at this level before as an offensive coordinator. So why is he leaning into that? And by the way, actually, since the last time we did another live stream, he went on Gators Breakdown, another football channel. For the Gators, and he talked about, once again, he was like, I feel very comfortable calling plays and how he's going to continue that doing forward and how he enjoys it and it keeps him in the game and whatever. And he says that he feels like he's getting momentum as an offensive coordinator. That's why he's going to keep calling plays. And it's like, the reason you think you're getting momentum is because you have DJ Lagway at quarterback. You have a generational talent back there. That's why you feel like you have momentum. So he's locked in on that. EJ, have you felt that too, that he's getting away from what we hired him as and he's diving into that? Give me your thoughts on that.
I mean, here's the thing. At the end of the day, bottom line, end of conversation. If Billy Napier walks out there next year and we're rolling and we're 11-1 going to the playoffs, nobody will give a rat's ass about. He can go out to midfield in a 2-2 for all we care, and have Spur Baby calling the plays. Okay, for all we care. But when you create goals, what are our goals as a program? That's kind of what this is all about. Florida fans, well, millennials, when we were getting into football, we were young enough to get into football. We were winning national championships. So we have a fond memory of being at the top of the food chain. So we want to become that. Okay. When we see other coaches and other programs creating the infrastructure, the foundation for that to happen, there's a little bit of discourse with what Billy Napier is doing. One of the things is you got to have a really good offensive coordinator and a really good defensive coordinator. Now, I will tell you this. We're going to talk about college basketball a little bit later. Last year's season, as I look over it one more time, college football is perceived fundamentally different than basketball. Basketball is about who did you beat, and if you did lose, who'd you lose to? Did you lose to good teams, or did you lose to bad teams? College football doesn't care. It's just, oh, Florida's a 5-loss team. No one, you can be anywhere near the playoffs. But if we were in basketball, when I'm looking at the 5 losses that we had last year, let's look at, okay, 3 of them were the teams that were in the playoffs. Okay, Texas, Georgia, Tennessee. Those are basically top 10, top 5 teams. Who are the other two? Miami Texas A&M. They were ranked all year. Those were good teams. And then who did we beat? Well, we beat everyone else we were supposed to beat, and we beat two teams that were ranked. So if we were in basketball, we probably would have been a tournament team because they would have said, okay, you guys beat good teams, you beat everyone you were favored to beat, and when you lost, those were quality. I mean, those were good you didn't lose to teams that were significantly worse than you.
Right.
So we would have probably been in the tournament if they looked at it that way. So I say that to say last year was an indicator of what the foundation that Billy Napier is creating works. Where we're getting frustrated is build on top of that. Go to the next level. Bring in like if he would have brought in a top-notch offensive coordinator, like I was saying, okay, Scott Frost, bring in Scott Frost. And then what happens? He goes to UCF. Anyway, so you bring in a top-level offensive coordinator. Now all of a sudden I'm like, I believe. Isn't that a song?
I believe I can fly.
I believe I can fly. Yes, we all have hope because now Billy who's done a pretty good job of evaluating unsung talent, right? Like he's gotten players out from the wherever, put them on the team, and they're performing. Mm-hmm. Aaron Gates, he be balling out there. Hopefully he's better. Hopefully he feels good. He sprained something. So anyway, build on the foundation. This year is really important for Billy Napier because I think the political capital that he built up this season from winning all the games you're supposed to win, and then when you did lose, you lost to good teams, are going to be gone if you don't win more of those games. I'm thinking that if we go 9-3, we have a very difficult schedule, but if we go 9-3, it's actually very difficult because now we got to play all these people on the road. But if you go 9-3, hey, moving on up, I think we have a chance to continue that momentum into the future and have a forward trajectory.
I think if we finish 9-3, we have a chance of being in the playoff. Honestly, I think it's going to be that Alabama type, thing of like, do you put him in, do you not? And I think with our wins, which would be more impressive than Bama this past year, I think we might even make it in, EJ.
Yeah, and to your point, why did Bama get kicked out? Well, when you look at who they lost to teams that they were favored to beat. We didn't do that. We were underdogs in all the games we lost. So guess what? Now you get kicked out of the playoffs. So we need to win these games. Billy, are you if you're listening? Billy, if you're listening, we need to win these games, buddy. And the thing is one last thing before I turn it over. When you look at the weaknesses and the opportunities for improvement, that's what everyone always should be looking at. When we lost, why did we lose, and how can we prevent that in the future? It was all, to me, 60% of it were in-game coaching decisions, as well as preparation and building a really good game plan. Because the reality is he's won at having players that are capable of winning these games. That was 2 years ago. It was like, we can't get any pressure. No one can get open. The quarterback can't throw. We were a million miles away. Now, we've got the players. We've got the scheme. Are you going to run the jet sweep on 3rd and 1 against the number 1 D-line that tackles you very easily every time you try to do something to the sideline? Or are you going to be like the Eagles and freaking tush push and Gator heavy power football grown man, get the first down, keep it moving. Somebody needs to tell him that. And that is why we wanted an offensive coordinator. And now it's like, are we still going to get out there with the no one's ready to play? That's the other thing. Good thing we play LIU on the first game this year. Because the last 2 years, maybe it's the last 3 years, I don't know. Yeah, the last 2 years, we've had a top 10 team that we've had to play. And it looked like, well, maybe we should have practiced a little bit more. We weren't even practicing.
Yeah.
So the Utah game, we had the guy run on the field. He didn't have his jersey on. How the hell did you not have the? Then Miami, it looked like we made Miami look like the freaking Buffalo Bills out there. They were unstoppable. Then when they go and play Louisville, it's a barn burner. And Louisville's not even. So anyway, we need to improve. We need to make improvements. And that's the only thing that is going to save Billy Napier. You have to be better than what you were this year. If we are better than we were this year, we should be 8-4, 9-3. The Tennessee game and the Miami game, and honestly, the Texas A&M game. Those are 3 games that we lost this year. We shouldn't lose next year. You play Tennessee at home. Miami, who the hell's their quarterback? They don't even have a quarterback. If they beat us without a quarterback, I'm telling you right now, sell all your shares. Sell them before the game. Because you can't sell them after. Insider trading. So I'm telling you right now, we can't lose to Miami. A&M. Maybe we lose to A&M again because they got Marcel Reed running all over the place and we don't have a DB coach. And we have Bala coming in from Washington and they couldn't tackle last year. So here's the deal. We got to beat Miami and Tennessee. If we can win all the other guys, flip those 2. Guess what? Now you're 9-3.
Yeah. Yeah, good news is Carson Beck will be too busy hanging out with his girlfriend in Miami. That's literally the reason why
they do have Carson Beck.
They got Carson Beck.
I completely forgot.
They got Carson Beck, but the only reason he transferred there was to hang out with his girlfriend. So I think he might be a little distracted.
Oh, man, they got Carson Beck.
He's trash. But no, EJ, you made a great point.
Dang.
which was the Gators can be good next year with Billy Napier calling plays. We're not saying that. The Gators can be a good football team. They will be a good football team. I know they will. Everyone on ESPN knows they will. The thing is will we be great? And I think, like you said, that one hire, EJ, at offensive coordinator could shift us from being an 8-win team to a 9-win team.
Yes.
And that 8-9 is huge. That one game, whether it's that Tennessee game, whether it's the Texas A&M, whatever it is massive. And that could put us in playoff. That could literally be playoff contention, type situation there. And so, once again, listen, if Napier comes out next year and he is calling plays left and right and his play calling is on point and beautiful, then I'll be the first person to say, hey, I was wrong. But look at Ohio State, a team that just could not get over that hump, dude, like we were talking about, EJ. Just, God, they lose to Michigan every year. They can't win the conference, man. They keep falling. What's going on? And then they hire an offensive coordinator. They get Chip Kelly, and what do? They go down. They have Jim Knowles. They make big hires at the coordinating positions, and they go win a national championship, baby.
Yeah.
And they got over that. It wasn't a huge step, but it was a step forward. They didn't just step to the side like they had been. And a guy, and we'll get off of this, but a Billy Napier quote that he said on Gators Breakdown was, he basically said, my offensive play calling is what got me to this position. It's what made me a head coach. And I was like, I guess you're not wrong, but that's not why they hired you. That's not why you got hired at Louisiana. That's not why you got hired at the University of Florida. You got hired here because you're a great, like you said, talent scouter. you are great at developing players. You are great as that CEO role of building a football team. Um, you know what coordinating position got him a head coaching job? The Ohio State coach. That's
Yeah.
Ryan Day got that head coach job because he was an offensive coordinator. Won a national championship as an offensive coordinator under Urban Meyer in 2014, I believe was the year at Ohio State, and that's what got him that job. And even he said, "Hey, you know what? I think I'm hurting my team a little bit. I think maybe I should get an offensive coordinator to come in here. That's might be maybe I can focus on other aspects and let him focus on the play calling, let him do his thing." Guess what? They won one, and I feel like that's a harder thing for him to do than it is for Billy Napier, a guy that has not been successful as an offensive coordinator. I've said this multiple times. I know I'm restating myself, but I mean, this kind of goes into our next hire, EJ, which is Benjamin Elsner. This is the director of football strategy we got. Elsner spent about 5 years with the 33rd team. It's an organization that breaks down the analytics of football. This guy's
Oh,
been doing this for a while. He worked with NFL executives as well, and different college presidents and stuff on on the analytical side of things. So look, this is good for Billy. Maybe he has a guy come in and a guy that has broken down football, on college football specifically, for the past 5 years and even longer than that. He can have a guy that comes in and say, "Hey, this play. Look at the success rate on this. It's terrible. Stop calling this." Right? And have a guy that go, "Hey, maybe do this more on this down. This will help more. Maybe don't do a jet sweep on 3rd and 1 against the Tennessee front seven." Um, Things like that. Maybe this analytical guy that he's bringing in, because Billy Napier's been talking about analytics now, EJ, for years. Ever since he got here, he's been talking about analytics. This is what we're going to build his introduction press conference was like, we're going to build this football team around analytics and probability, success rate, all that. He has not done that. But now that he has this guy coming in, that's literally, he even said in the which, by the way, I think I might just throw some of these websites in the description after the live stream. So you guys can go check them out, these articles. But he talks about how this guy's going to use analytics. He's going to use AI as well, to break down the success rate of plays and what players need to get the ball in certain downs, and what things that people have been talking about, and other podcasts have been breaking down before. So maybe this is a good thing, EJ. This hire right here. Once again, this guy's name is Benjamin Elsner. Might be that what's what I'm looking for. I don't know. It might be that guy that just really helps out play calling and strategy, I guess is what I'm trying to say, of the game planning going forward for this Florida Gators offense and this football team in general.
yeah. I mean, when I look at Elsner, I like that name. It's a beautiful name. EL.
It's fun to say.
Yes. They're saying in the article, he's going to help. He's going to assist Polk. So maybe he's reporting to Polk County, with managing the salary cap and contracts and leading the efforts with analytics and AI. So when we talk about analytics, just at a high level, what do we mean by that? Because a lot of people are like, "What's analytics?" Data is everything. So we talk about, some of y'all may have heard that quote, "Drowning in information, starve for knowledge." What does that mean? Right now, relative to where we were 100 years ago as a civilization, you have pretty much all known human knowledge at your fingertips in your cell phone. 100 years ago, how did you get your information? You had to go to the library. But now we think about data collection, game film, player tracking, scouting the opponents, psychological, physiological data. That was a very onerous task back in the day. Now, that should all be pretty much a real-time approach. Then you say, okay, how do you apply all that? Predictive modeling. So you say, okay, every game, there's a potential outcome based on how teams perform. Back in the day when Paul Bear Bryant was the coach, it was all eye test. It was all yeah, this guy can hit harder than their guy, so we're going to beat you. Now it's a little bit different. It's probability. So think about this. If you were to say Florida and Georgia were going to play 10 times, this is how they look at it. From a probability analytics standpoint, the analytics say Georgia will win 8 of those 10 games. Florida will win 2 of those 10 games. So then you put those 10 probabilities in a hat, you shake them up, you reach your hand in, you pull one out. What are you going to get? And that's pretty much what's going to happen on Saturday, because that's pretty much how it plays out. One of those games is going to be one of the 8 that Georgia wins, but it's going to be Georgia wins by 20, or Florida's actually winning the game at some point, and then Georgia has to make a comeback. So you forecast these outcomes by really figuring out a strategy that gives your team the best chance to win. If your pass blocking rates are very, very minimal compared to adjusted, meaning you adjust for the strength of your opponent, we can talk about that later, but if your pass blocking, for example, is not really that great and their pass rushing is really, really good, a lot of people underestimated that for Florida from an analytics standpoint because they looked at our record and they said, Florida's trash. And then what happened? We played Ole Miss, who had the best D-line in America. And what happened? We pancaked them. And then what actually happened? We're the ones sacking them. Now, how did that happen? Well, that happened because when you adjust for the strength of schedule, our statistics weren't good because we played a much more difficult schedule than Ole Miss. Our numbers become more reliable from a probability standpoint because when we're doing what we're doing, even though we're only gaining 350 yards a game, if you're doing that against a top 5 schedule, you are going to get your 350 yards a game against no matter who you play. And if you play a really good team, you're still going to get your 350. If you play a bad team, you're going to get your 350 plus some. So we played Ole Miss. They found out, these guys are actually pretty good. They're sacking us. So then you can figure out from an analytics, what's the best strategy for us to approach this team? If we can't pass block, but they can pass rush, guess what that means? Throw to the outside, quick screen, quick slant, wear out their D-line. When you look at these college football games in the playoff, Notre Dame, what were you doing? I had you play like a champion. Play like a champion. You did a great job on the first drive. Then you forgot what you did on the first drive for the rest of the game. Then you did make a little bit of a comeback, but it goes to show you, okay, power run with the quarterback. That's all you need to do. They stopped doing it. Now, Ohio State, maybe, they figured out how to stop it. Then you need to do something else. But that's how you scenario plan and you go into that. I don't think Billy Napier was that great at actually, like you just said, using those analytics to say, when we look at our opponent this week, what does the data tell us about what is the best approach for preparing our team, a game plan that can be successful against this team? How do we anticipate them to react to that game plan? And then how do we react? And then you have a game sheet that says, we're going to do X. If they do Y, we do Z. Now, you can't get so caught into that to where you lose your guiding principles. And I'll give you an example. Going for 2. Billy Napier goes for 2 at the weird. I'm like, okay, Elsner. Hopefully you'll tell him when to go for 2. Because he's going for 2 at the weird. We play Tennessee. Why are we going for 2? 2 years ago, we go for 2 at the weirdest time. We don't need to go for 2. Go for 1. He goes for 2. Then what happens? At the end of the game, when we recovered the onside kick, we were already in field goal range. But because he had went for 2 twice and missed it, we're down by 5 instead of being only down by 3, which a field goal could have tied it and sent it overtime. Then this year we go play Tennessee. What happens? We should have went for 2 because you weren't going to win going for 1. But he said, well, I went for 2 when we were in Knoxville and it didn't work. So now we're going to just go for 1. No, go for 2. At least we can win the game if you go for 2. So someone needs to tell him the analytics say this, coach, not what you say. So hopefully Elsner brings that to the table. Ohio State, Penn State, Notre Dame, those were 3 programs this year that I kind of feel like really used the analytics really well. Nick Saban was kind of old school. He was not really that into analytics. That was another reason he cited in an interview that he was like, forget this. Everybody's doing analytics now and NIL and all that. I'm too old school for that. So he's out of here. But hopefully Elsner will bring that to the table. We'll see what happens.
There's a really interesting correlation with some of these, or I guess similar variable with some of these hires. And it seems like, you got a guy like Elsner, and then a guy like, hold on, let me pull this back up and get his name right. The Robert Bala guy. Or not Robert Bala, but Vinny Sinceri, our co-DC. Vinny comes from Bill Belichick's New England Patriots, right, where he was a defensive coach there for years, for like 4 years, I believe, under Bill Belichick. And what's something that Bill Belichick loves to do when he's a head coach in the NFL and he calls his defenses? They change entire game plans from week to week. Like, you don't see that at all. It's unbelievable. And that flexibility going from week to week is something you don't see a lot in college football, but it's something that if you do, you have a huge advantage. So Vinny is used to that. And then you have a guy like Benjamin Elsner coming in, who that's what he's built off of. That's what he's there for, is to work on that adaptation to these different teams, to these different philosophies and these different formations and playing styles. So it seems like that's the route we're going with some of these hires. And if so, we have a chance to be a very good football team. National championship caliber, once again, I don't know. Will Billy get out of his own head? Another thing, too, I'm telling you right now, EJ, I know he's not going by analytics because you know how many times we've run the ball into 8-man boxes? Terrible. They have like a +2 advantage on us, and that's why we can't, and we still get 3 yards, but it's like instead of getting 3, why not wait until there's a 6v6 right there, right? Run the ball, let Jaden Ball be one-on-one with the guy, or have no one there and let him get, instead of 3 yards, get 12. Right?
3rd and 9 is when we'll run it, though.
Yeah, exactly. So you can't tell me analytics are telling Billy Napier to do that. So will all these new analytical hires help out Billy Napier's, game time play calling? That's what's going to be really, really interesting to see. And if it does have a big effect on his play calling, the Gators have a chance to be a really good football team next year. So yeah, I just wanted to throw out that correlation because I think that's a really interesting strategy we're having when it comes to the hires we're making. Is it seems like we're working on more flexibility and the willingness to adapt week to week with some of these guys coming in here.
And I'll just say 100%. The one thing that I think Billy Napier, hopefully Elsner, brings to the table, Elsner, if you're listening, game situation, because that is what I think could win us 2 more games next year. So time management, field position, play calling on down and distance, okay, in-game adjustments, the middle 8. These are things that we take for granted that no one really knows a lot about. I think the average fan will watch a game and just say, oh, well, we didn't score enough points. But it's about managing the time on the clock to your advantage. There was one game this year where we had all this time on the clock and we just let it run out.
Going
And
into
then
halftime, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Wait,
What game was that?
oh,
And I'm
man.
going back, I'm like, shouldn't we have at least tried to get something there?
Billy's
So
done that a lot. He's done that in a lot of games just in previous years. And like and that's one thing that you put a big emphasis on, EJ. And ever since you said it, I've started looking at it and looking back on games. That middle eight, man, Billy Napier, that's probably what he's worst at. He's terrible at the middle eight. And that's what lost us some games. And I agree,
terrible.
he's not aggressive. And then when he is aggressive, he's aggressive at the worst possible times. Once again, which shows that he's not. There's no way there's an analytical guy in his ear. All these different analyst guys, and we can't do shit still. It's insane.
Yeah. And that middle eight, like Dan Mullen was a master at the middle eight. Who's the other guy? Ohio State coach. I'm like forgetting
Talking
him.
about Ryan Day?
Ryan Day. Okay, now maybe the correlation between those two is they coach with Urban Meyer. And Urban Meyer, he may not have had a lot of analytics, but he coached with guiding principles. Like effort level, game clock management, down and distance. This is our playbook for down and distance. XYZ. Maybe he instilled that on them because Ryan Day is a really good middle eight. Like the last 4 minutes of the first half, first 4 minutes of the second half. If you have an opportunity to get back-to-back possessions in that time span, and this is why teams now defer. I feel like Billy Napier always defers to get the ball in the second half, but there's no plan. Like, okay, people, if you're going to defer the ball, meaning you let the other team get the ball first. Okay, middle school brain here. That means you need to have a plan to actually stop the team that gets the ball to start the game, which we never have. And then when we get the ball to start the second half, you need a plan to actually score, which we never also have. So why the hell are we deferring? Just let the other team pick. So you need a plan. So I know the first couple of possessions we're trying to figure things out. But Ohio State, when you saw them in the playoff, when they deferred, guess what happened? They stone cold your ass in the first drive. You weren't going anywhere. And then they had the ball at the end of the first half. Guess what they did? Easy touchdown. Oh, by the way, they also won field position because they kicked it deep to you. You went 3 and out. They got the ball at the 40, easily scored on the first drive, got the ball at the end of the first half, scored, got the ball to start the second half, scored, and guess what? You're down 21. That is coaching. It's almost like we roll the dice and, well, we're out here playing ball. I'm so proud of our boys. We got 20 guys out here playing their heart out. No! Give them a plan. Now, hopefully DJ Lagway will save us because DJ Lagway is savior.
Yeah, he is at this point. No, but
he can do anything, but there you go.
Well, also, too, you brought up a great point, EJ. I feel like Billy Napier uses that defer method as a safety net. If he, you know what I mean? No, genuinely, I do. Like, if he's down at halftime, he's like, you know what, it's fine. We get the ball. Let's get some momentum going. Instead of being like, hey, it's a tied game. Let's try to get some points here so we can come back out, makes a two possession game in the second half at the start of it. So all momentum's on our side. But I think he uses it as like it's okay. We'll get them next time, guys. It's all right. Let's go inside, eat our apples and our oranges, and come back out. I genuinely think that's his mindset. Because there's no aggressiveness. I've never in my life have seen Billy Napier try to score before the second half. I don't think being aggressive at all. Like, when looking back on it, unless he's down by a lot of points, I can't think of it. What he'll try to do is this is typical Billy Napier. He'll run the ball, and if he gets a first down, literally on the first play, he always runs the ball. And if he gets a first down or gets some yards, he'll be like, okay, let's try to do something here. Then they try to do a passing play and it's in a completion. Then he goes to halftime. Literally, that's exactly how it goes every single time. Tell me I'm wrong. So I think he uses it as a safety net, EJ, instead of that killer mentality, which kind of goes against the whole scared money. Scared money don't make money, but whatever.
True.
But yeah, fun stuff there, man. Now, another addition that we had as an actual player in the 2025 class, a 4-star cornerback, Honest. Jesus, Konabeni. Konabeni. He's from the UK. That's a London name. That's not American.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, Onis Conan Benny. He's a 4-star cornerback from, like I said, the UK. He flipped from Tennessee to the University of Florida. I hate Tennessee, but God, we've stolen like all their defensive players, dude. We flipped, I think, 4 players from this class alone from their secondary. We flipped 2 safeties, I believe, a cornerback, and now another cornerback. So we've taken their top 4 secondary players from Tennessee. Or it might have been 3. It might have been 3, but I think it's the 4th. So Tennessee, man, we're draining them, and they're pissed. I looked at the comment section; they hate us, which is what we love to see. Yeah, good player. I think he's like I said, 4-star. So having a guy like that in this class bumped us up once again.
What was his name again?
It is 1 second. It's Onis or Onis. It's Onis, and then it's Conan Benny. Onis Conan Benny.
Got it. Yes, I see him right here. Yeah, I was reading about we flipped a guy from Tennessee, and the thing, and we haven't talked about Will Harris. I was wondering, like,
yeah,
Will Harris, I believe, was the reason he flipped to Florida, and so let's figure out what that means. So,
that's scary. I love his size too. He's 6'1". That's huge. And yeah. Well, speaking of that, let's talk about that because we just had a decommit. Let's dive into the departures now. Yeah, we got some players and got some guys, but there's also some key departures here. So let's talk about how Will Harris, our secondary coach, left to go be with Miami Hurricanes. He was let go. He just by his thing that he said on Twitter, you could tell that I don't think this was a decision he made. He didn't say it, but just in the way that he kind of worded things, looks like Billy Napier got rid of him, which makes sense because you have a guy Vinny Sinceri coming in, a guy whose expertise is the secondary and DBs and stuff. Even though it said they were bringing him in as the safeties coach. I think they just kind of kicked Will Harris out and was like, hey, we can demote you and maybe make you the corners coach. And he was like, just whatever. And they're like, okay, we'll let you go. So he's going to Miami to have a more prominent role there. And it just seems like we're bringing in Sinceri to kind of do the entire – they haven't announced it yet, but I'm assuming he'll be the whole secondary coach, which is why Jalen Waters, which is a 2026 4-star cornerback – we just got this news yesterday, decommitted from Florida. He's a 4-star cornerback. He's been committed to us since June. What I like about this kid is he's 6'2", 180 pounds. 6'2", that's huge for a DB. We're seeing that a lot now, EJ, where there's a lot of tall corners now kind of coming into football. That's just, those few inches, man, are going to make a huge difference when you're playing, these big receivers, these big body receivers that are, 6'5". So having a guy out there with that height and that wingspan is going to be huge. He decommitted probably because Will Harris, our secondary coach, is gone. EJ, how do you feel about all this? Listen, he's a 2026, and so he has a good relationship with Billy Napier. So maybe we can. I'm sure we definitely still have a probability of still bringing him to the University of Florida, but it still hurts, for that class next year.
Yeah, this is the second year in a row where we've de facto, quote unquote, let go of the secondary coach. Because remember, we had Corey Raymond last year, who I think he got let go, right?
Yeah, we actually let him go. Yeah.
Yeah, and they got rid of him, and they got rid of the D line coach Sean Spencer, who was on the D line coach last year, and we replaced those guys. Um, Will Harris. Here's the deal: you get credit when things go well. I really believe that, and we should give him credit because the defensive backs were all injured last year, and the guys that were on the bench that were able to be elevated to first team starters and then third team became second team because we had like four guys out, they all got in there and performed really, really, really well. Some of the transfers that we brought in Trikez Bridges. I remember we brought him in from, I think he was at Oregon, right? I think he was at
Yeah, I was
Oregon.
at Oregon.
He came in, he played extremely well for us. Um, and then we also had one other guy that we brought in. I forgot, but anyway,
Yeah, we had Asa Turner in this at the safety position, but he got hurt in the
he
first
got
game.
hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got hurt, and uh,
So by the way, he'll be back next year. A veteran coming back that obviously won the starting position. Um, you know, preseason, so that's gonna be a big get for the Gators. But he is coming off of an ACL tear, so
yeah, that's yeah, that's a big one. And then I don't know, Cormani McLean. Maybe he'll end up giving us something next year. So we brought in all these guys. Jameer Grimsley. I don't think did he play.
uh,
Um, but anyway, it's an interesting situation because I mean, Will Harris. I think he's my age. He was like born in 1986. He's from California. He's not even from Florida. Um, and what I was reading was Mario Cristobal was after him for a while. Like, hey, come coach at Miami, come coach at Miami. And then if you're kind of thinking about it, it's like, okay, well, we're bringing in Sun Siri and we're bringing in Baller. We don't have any room for Will Harris. And then Will Harris is probably thinking, okay, let me get something straight. You have a proven product with my performance on the field. Because last time I checked, last year we had 3 interceptions. We have 14 this year. Might even have more than that because I don't think that's including the Tulane game.
nope.
So we went up 500% in our interceptions. Was that just coincidence? Now, some people could say, well, your D line got a lot more pressure creating turnovers, which I completely agree with that. But the DBs still have to be in a position to catch it. Oh, and by the way, they're all injured, and so these are backups that have been coached pretty well. So and then Will Harris also has been instrumental in recruiting. And Mario Cristobal is not a terrible coach. I mean, he wants to get good players or coaches. I just think Will Harris probably was thinking to himself, if they're bringing all these people, they're getting rid of me. They need to create some salary positioning. And the reality is, if they're going to make the decision that the success of the team was not due to me being on the team, then I need to go somewhere else.
Right.
And only time will tell if that's the right decision. Because I'm going to tell you right now, Billy Napier, if we get out there next year and people are running wide open in the back end, and then we don't have a guy like Aaron Gates coming up tackling people like it's nothing, I'm going to be worried about your decision making
Mm-hmm.
because you already didn't go out and get proven guys. You got guys that we're rolling the dice if this guy is going to actually pan out or not. It should be he is a proven, established methodology, experienced person that is going to take us to the next level. Penn State's getting that. They got Jim Beyonce Knowles. This guy, his defense was insane. Oklahoma State, they had like the number one defense in the nation at Oklahoma State, for crying out loud. Mm-hmm. Then he goes to Ohio State. It's a jailbreak blitz every time, and they're not even blitzing at the quarterback. Now he's going to Penn State. They may not even, James Franklin, you may not even need to score next year because your offenses usually don't even score that much anyway. Now you might not even need to score if you got Jim Beyonce Knowles out there. So here's the deal. Hopefully this move works out, and hopefully we are better than we were last year. Because if not, there's a problem.
Yeah, I don't like it. The craziest part is he didn't even take a co-defensive coordinator job either. He literally just jumped right to the safeties coach. He's not even defensive back coach, so which shows it had something to do with the Vinny Sunseri hire, and no telling what's going on there. Yeah. But definitely hurts recruiting, and not exactly what you want to see. So going to be very interesting. And like I said, you're going to have decommits, and I'm assuming that's what happened with Jalen Waters. One of our top recruits from that class in 2026. So you're going to have guys decommit after you make moves like that, but it is what it is, man. We'll see what happens. Hopefully it pays off like EJ said, and if not, a lot of questions are going to be raised, no question. All right, well, that's the additions and departures from the program. Fun little segment there. Let's go ahead and let's talk about baseball first, because I just don't have really too much to say here before we dive into the basketball stuff. Gator baseball obviously had a great sweep 3-0 in the games against Air Force. Played really, really well. The pitching was really solid in these games, man. And it's looking good for the Gators baseball. If we can have a really good baseball, really good football, and really good basketball team this year, man, God, that's going to bring in so much revenue for the Florida Athletics, which is only going to help NIL in the future of Gator sports. So, great job by the Gator baseball team. I think we're ranked number 10 in the country. A lot of new faces is one thing I will say. It's a little strange. A lot of new guys on this baseball team, but it's going to be interesting moving forward, and I'm excited to watch. I started watching a little bit last year for the first time with Gator baseball. Went to the Georgia game, or one of the Georgia games, and it was pretty exciting. So I actually got hit with the foul ball. That was fun. But yeah, it was a good time. By the way, EG, I think I'm gonna go to a basketball game this year. I want to go to one. I want to drive up. I just don't know which one yet. I know we play Ole Miss for the last game. So what I'm gonna try to do is hit up a baseball game and a basketball game in like the same few days, and make a little trip. I've never been to the Dome before. So I wanna go hit it up.
Nice. I'm jealous. Every year in like football or basketball, if you have a special team, I just think it's really important to go to at least one of those games.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to go to some March Madness games if we go to some March Madness.
Oh,
so,
for sure.
Yeah.
There you go. For sure.
But the baseball team, I mean, they dominated this series. I mean, it wasn't even close.
No.
And we had some pretty good little pitching from Clemente and McNelly.
Yep.
Oh, Luke McNelly. Okay, I see.
Yeah, he's been on the team. He was on the team last year as well. And stepped in, was kind of inconsistent from what I remember, for a little bit there in the pitching. But yeah, he's killing it, man. He's killing it. Stepping in that role.
He's killing it. And from a hitting standpoint, man, we have a pretty good little lineup, I guess. It's interesting because baseball usually starts off the year kind of cold, and then it takes us some games to like get rolling a little bit, figure out what's the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely seems like that's going to be the case this year. But man, exciting year for Sully and the boys.
Yeah, well, I just remember last year in particular, I think we started out with a loss, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and well, I have it right here. Uh, yeah, we literally started off with a loss against St. John's, at like in
Oh yeah.
the Conjuring Family Park, and there was a couple really rough games early on, with a loss to Stetson. And it wasn't the prettiest. So it seems like we're kind of getting a little faster here, a little fast start this season, which is good compared to last year. And we had a pretty good team last year, man. A fun team to watch last year. So we will see what goes on going forward, man. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about baseball is they play so many games, but you don't play everyone in the SEC, which
No.
is kind of weird. We do play Harvard this year in a three-game series,
Oh, there we go.
but we don't play like Texas A&M. I don't see that where we play Ole Miss. Ole Miss is usually a really good little. Oh yeah, we do play Ole Miss this year. Okay, um, but uh, but yeah, it's an interesting schedule. We play all the in-state teams: Stetson, North Florida, FAMU, Jacksonville, UCF, FAU, FSU. So we play pretty much everyone that's in state. Um, the Vanderbilt series, hey, that's gonna be a pretty good one in early April. But yeah, so very excited about baseball.
No question. Yeah, it's gonna be very exciting. So we will keep giving updates on that as we continue the baseball season. The one that we've been waiting for though, the one that I'm getting more involved with this year, the Gator basketball team, man, one hell of a football team or a basketball team. Um, yeah, EJ, how are you feeling? Obviously, we had a guy come back from injury, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Player come back from injury. We still have, oh yeah, Micah. Micah came back. We still have Condon hurt. He did not play in the Mississippi State game. So that's going to be something. I don't know if you heard anything new on him, EJ. Obviously, a good guy to have on the court, big time playmaker, and glue for this team. But yeah, how are you feeling with return of Micah and the Gators recently?
Woo! Gators, man, I love see basketball. It's one of my passions. People love basketball. So we're on a four-game winning streak right now, which is great because we played Tennessee 2 weeks ago and scored 44 points. Um, basketball is kind of weird. It's basketball is a game of confidence. Like if you get into the flow and you just get that intuition that I feel it, I can play my game. Um, you play with more confidence. That Tennessee game, I don't know what happened. We were at Rocky Top, we were hung over, couldn't make anything. I we just lost all our confidence and ended up losing that game. It looked very similar to the first game that we played them, except it was reversed. But we're scoring 86 points a game on average in the four-game winning streak, which is our season average, and double the points that we scored at that Tennessee game. So it's weird. Um, Ken Palm. Ken Palm is an analytical database started in the late 90s by Ken Pomeroy. It's very famous, used by a lot of the analytical pundits. And basically, he has a lot of tools in there that looks at offensive and defensive efficiency. Long story short, offensive efficiency is how many points per possession you score with your offense. Defensive efficiency is how many points you allow the other team to score when every time they have a possession.
Hmm.
And teams that are in the top 10 in both, meaning you have a good offense and you have a good defense, it's kind of like in football. Um, those are the teams that have um, a super high probability of winning the national championship. And that's been well proven, well correlated the last several years. Um, we have a top 10. I was going to do a separate video on this, but we have a top 10, we have a top 5 offense and a top 10 defense, which is incredible.
That's insane.
And this is this is adjusted for your strength of schedule. So Auburn is going to be really ranked really high because they've played the most difficult schedule and they're really good. So it's going to be hard for us to beat them, which is why teams don't really move that much. But it's incredible. Florida, Duke, and Houston are the 3 teams that have top 10 offensive and defensive efficiency. Auburn should be, they'll probably get up there, but the last couple of games, remember, they gave up 90 points to us and then 85 to Auburn. So they probably dropped a little bit. But they have the number 1 offense and the number 14 defense, Auburn. Now, how do you get a top 5 offense in basketball? Well, you score when you have possession of the ball. How do you do that? You can shoot a 3. Can you make threes? If you miss your 3, can you get an offensive rebound and put it back in? Florida is one of the top offensive rebounding teams in the nation. So it's like when we get the ball, we're going to score. Why? We're going to either drive it with one of our guards, get a high percentage shot at the rim. It's either going to go in. If we miss it, we're going to rebound it. If we miss it, don't get a rebound, you fouled us. So now we're probably going to shoot free throws. We miss it, we get a rebound, we kick it out. Aberdeen's hitting a 3-pointer. So it's very difficult to stop this team from scoring when they have possession of the basketball. That is why we're so good on offensive efficiency. We're good on defensive efficiency because our guards are defending the 3-pointer a lot better than they did last year. And we're blocking shots and protecting the paint, and we're rebounding. Todd Golden is an analytical guy, but you can see the analytics manifest itself in the way he designs the roster and calls sets on the court. Much more so than Billy Napier. so like Golden says, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to get a hand in your face when you shoot a 3. And when you drive to the rim to get an easy shot, we're going to be standing right there to block you. So we make scoring when you have the ball very difficult. And when we get the ball, we're going to score, which is why when you look at the point differential, we are beating teams on average by double digits. So analytically, we're really, really good. Injuries. So injury update. You talked about hand locked in. So injuries in basketball can be kind of a blessing a little bit in that if you have some depth, it allows other players to step in and get some experience. So against Tennessee, Walter Clayton Jr. rolled his ankle. It was a low grade 1 ankle sprain. He was out a week. What did that do? Denzel Aberdeen has been low-key hooping out here. Okay? He's all gas, no brakes. So this guy can drive, get his shot off at the rim, hit you with a floater, get a 3-pointer. He's also a really good defensive player on the perimeter. Aberdeen is exceptional. Him getting more action has meant more higher scoring, faster paced game. He gets out in transition. Urban Klavjar, he's been able to play more. When he's wide open and shooting a 3, that thing is like 90% going in. So we've allowed our guards to play a little bit more with Clayton. Now that Clayton's back, Elijah Martin got hurt in the Vanderbilt game with a hip, so he's been out a couple games. He came back last night. Martin, him being out, again, Aberdeen and Klavjar have been able to play. The recent injury to Condon, I was like, oh my God, we cannot. Condon is indispensable. Like, you cannot lose Condon and then continue to have this expectation that you're a national championship team, because he's too valuable of a player from an offensive rebounding, defense at the rim, He's our best post player. You throw him the ball at the block, he can score on anyone. He gives you he gives you like if you think of like the world in three dimensions, for so many years it was always 2D for a lot of people. Then we went to 3D. Then it's like, oh wow, 3D. Like this is crazy. That's Condon. He gives you like three-dimensional scoring. Perimeter, penetration, post. If you take him out and you don't have post, there will be a game where a team can shut down your penetration and three-point shooting, and you need to be able to go to the post to score crucial points. And if you don't have that, you're probably not going to win. So he's very important from that standpoint. Thank goodness it was a low grade, I think it was grade 1 ankle sprain is what they're saying. So that's a 1 to 2 week situation. Get him ice, raise, heal. Hopefully he can be back on March 1st when we play Texas A&M, because we're gonna need him in that game.
Yeah.
So to long story short, I think the goal for this Gator team is, let me give you this stat that I just looked up. Aberdeen. This is like one of my new favorite players.
I'm looking at his stat line. It's insane.
Aberdeen. Denzel. His first name's Denzel. It's perfect. King Kong ain't got nothing on him. Let me tell you something. When he makes a three-pointer, 18-0 is the record. So when you see him shoot and it goes in from three, we're not losing. The 3 games that we lost this year, 0 for 2, 0 for 2, 0 for 3, threes. He was 0 for 7. So we lost all those games. When Aberdeen is shooting threes, game over. Thomas Houck. Let me tell y'all something. I know some people be like, he's not LeBron. When you look at this guy, what is the effect of LeBron on the team? He's 6'9", he can shoot, he rebounds, he passes, he assists, he blocks shots, he leads the break. Now, Houck is not a scorer like LeBron. LeBron can score from everywhere. Houck is just now developing his open shot where he's actually making threes and he's shooting extremely well free throws. But he does everything else that LeBron would do except the scoring part, which is he blocks, he can defend all 5 positions on the court. He's one of the best passers in the nation for somebody that's 6'9". He's probably the best rebounder on the team. This guy's incredible when he's out there. If he can learn how to score, like drive it, points in the paint, which he scored 20 points last night, but if he can pull up and shoot a little floater or do whatever, this guy's unstoppable. He's like NBA level. This guy's incredible. So he's playing really great. Hand-Lockton coming back is huge. Hand-Lockton is another player that is not a scorer like Condon. So you can't really throw it to him in the block and he'll post up and get like post up in the paint moves on you. But he is a guy that does everything. He's one of your best rebounders. He blocks, like last night. He only scored 2 points, but he had like 2 blocks, 3 rebounds, 3 steals, 5 assists. Like this guy does that. So you have him out there. You have other people. This team has a chance to win the whole thing. So here's the deal. The SEC regular season, in my opinion, is something that should be our goal you can win the SEC regular season title. Now, Auburn won against Alabama yesterday. There was number 1 versus number 2. So now they're still 2 games in front of us. But Auburn still has at Kentucky, at Texas A&M. We got to cross our fingers, and they still have 1 game with Alabama. So if they can lose 2 of those 3 and we win out, we would win the SEC regular season because we'd have the same record and we won the head-to-head with them. So we still have a chance to win the SEC regular season title, which would be huge this year because this is the best year analytically for any conference ever. They're saying that there's 3 number 1 seeds right now. They're saying that we're a number 1 seed. We got to hold on to that number 1 seed. We cannot lose. Well, we got to play at Alabama. Maybe we'll lose that one. Texas A&M, they're a top 5 level team, but they play in Gainesville. Hopefully we'll be healthy by then.
So I'm saying if we can stay healthy, bro, I think we'll be okay.
We got to stay healthy. We got to stay healthy. So, long story short, but the injuries have helped because now it's like, this is what it's like. I was giving this analogy to, I don't know, some guy at the gym. Listen, let's say your right hand, you break your right hand. You're right-handed. You write with your right hand. Well, now I got to use my left hand. And let's say you learn how to do stuff with your left hand. Well, by the time your right hand's healed, guess what's happened to you? Now you're like an octopus. You can use both hands. With this basketball situation, one guy goes down, another guy steps in and is able to get experience. You learn how to win without this other guy. When he comes back, now there's multiple different ways that you can attack and win games. So the injuries have been kind of a blessing in disguise. And I really think this team has a chance to go all the way. Now, here's the deal. There are some people that bet Florida to win the championship way back in the day. You could probably win $60,000. Now you can only win $600. So put your money on Florida now before we keep moving up. Because guess what? Duke, we're coming. People are, Duke is going to win the national championship. Maybe they will. Who knows? But we were going to play them. I hope we play them. If we play them, I like our chances.
I love it. I love it, man. Look at that confidence, EJ. Yes, sir. I think that, like you said, the key is staying healthy, and I'm glad that we're getting hurt now instead of, being deep into these tournaments and then being screwed. Because like you said, you can really discover, okay, without this guy can fit this role. Without this guy, these plays work better. And like you said, you could just do so many. You could rest the players so there's less chance for injury, right? You're not, exhausting them they're not playing every single minute out there. And yeah, overall just makes your team more versatile. And if something's not working against the team, like, I bet we got y'all. This is, we got a little secret weapon here that's healthy again. So yeah, it's gonna be really interesting, and I really like you said, our chances on winning out. They said the Bama game, that one's gonna probably be the toughest one. That's gonna be left. We end the season off with Ole Miss, the game I might be trying to go to, which would be fun.
Yes.
But so that they're once again, it's just a ranked team after ranked team, man. I mean, if you go through the rest of our schedule, EJ, real quick, let me see real quick. I don't have it pulled up.
Well, I think I know it off the top of my head. So
there you go. I love it.
We our next game is Oklahoma. We call them Choklahoma because they just choked last night. They were up by 15, end up losing at the last second to LSU, who's not even that good. Now, Oklahoma is better than South Carolina. So it's a good time to have these injuries because you can ease Handlocked and in where he's not playing a really dominant team. He's easing his way in.
Right.
Oklahoma is a little bit better than South Carolina because they're a little bit better on the offensive end. But if we can get rolling, that's a game we should win.
Okay.
We go to LSU, who just beat Oklahoma. LSU's only won 2 games in the conference because the SEC is incredible, but LSU is still a pretty good little team. And when we go on the road, who knows? Then the last 4 are all and they call in college basketball quad 1. We play at Georgia with our former coach, Mike White. Now, why is that a quad 1 game? Because in the net rankings, if you play a road game against somebody in the top 75 and Georgia's like 35, then that's a quadrant 1 game. Now, when we played Georgia in Gainesville, we beat them by 30. But guess what? We beat Tennessee by 30. Then we go up there and we act like we never played basketball before.
Are we
So
undefeated against Mike White?
we are, yeah, I think we're 6-0.
Yeah.
We're 6 and
Let's
0,
keep it going.
which is crazy. The issue with Mike White is he would recruit great athletes and that would naturally be good defenders, but they weren't great offensive players. And so he would have to coach them to play offense, and we would go on these scoring droughts. And Todd Golden is not that. Todd Golden goes for guys who can score first, and then he'll coach them defense. So it's a little bit of a different approach. So hopefully we can just outscore Georgia when we play them. We'll see what happens. Then we play Texas A&M. Texas A&M is they're a really good team. They're one of those teams that they win all the intangibles. They're kind of like Notre Dame in football. They win all the intangibles. They rebound. They block shots. They steal the ball. They do all these crazy things, and they end up with more points than you. They ugly up the game. So we're probably going to need Condon in that one. Then we play at Alabama. Now, here's the thing. Everyone's going to say, oh, Alabama's going to win. Last year when we played Alabama, we should have beat them all 3 times. The first time we played them in Tuscaloosa, with their style of play, it did not match up with us very well. The referees called everything a foul on us, and they ended up barely beating us by like 4 or 5 points. But then when we played them in Gainesville and in the SEC tournament, we beat them by 20 because the matchups, our style of play was too imposing for them. So I like our chances to go and potentially win that game, which would be huge. Then we come and we play that game against Ole Miss. Ole Miss is a good defensive team. They have a couple of good guards. Matt Morrell is a guy that you got to watch out for. But I feel like at home, if you're there, we're undefeated when you actually turn the game on. We'll probably win.
There you go.
And we have to be, here's the other thing. We absolutely, positively, 100% have to be one of the top 4 seeds in the SEC tournament. How the conference tournament will work this year is the top 4 teams will get a double bye, kind of like the top 4 in the college football playoff.
Mm-hmm.
So we will get the top 4 in the SEC tournament will get a double bye, so you don't have to play until Friday. If you're 5 through 8, you get a bye, so you play on Thursday. If you're 9 through 16, you play on Wednesday. So here's the deal. The SEC has so many good teams, and even the teams that are at the bottom have beaten everybody outside the SEC, so they're still really good teams. You cannot win the SEC tournament playing 5 games in 5 days. You're going to get beat up, injured, because you play 5 games in 5 days. You only want to do 3 games in 3 days because you want to stay healthy for the NCAA tournament. Because if you're playing 5 games in 5 days against these teams, you're going to have sore ribs. Your legs are going to be tired. Your knees are going to be worn out. So you have to be one of the top 4. Right now, we're, I think, tied for 3rd in the SEC standings. Have to keep winning.
Okay. So do you think, so we really can't afford to lose one then if we want to get those 2 buys?
Not the way. Well, Auburn they're cruising right now because they're 11-1.
Right.
We are 9-3. So tied with Texas A&M. So if the season ended right now, we would be in the top 4. But the way it's going is you got teams with 4 losses, some teams with 5 losses.
Mm-hmm.
If we lose one, then it just depends on what happens with these other teams.
Control. Yeah. So just
last year,
yeah, you're right.
Yes, and last year, so here's a perfect example. Last year, the last game of the year was at Vanderbilt, and I was thinking, okay, we want to finish in that top 4. We had a chance to finish in the top 4, but when we lost that one game at Vanderbilt, we dropped from 4 to 6 in the standings, and then had to play on Thursday.
Mm.
So one game can make a difference. If we win out, we play Texas A&M. So we beat them, we knock them back. We also play Alabama, who's right in front of us. We can beat them, maybe we knock them back. We just have to win, baby. And let me tell you something. We're setting records. We beat 2 number 1 ranked teams. I was hoping Alabama would win so that they would go to number 1, and then when we go play them, we can beat 3 number 1 teams. But they lost. So now we can't do that. But anyway, if we win out, we're going to be number 1, potentially, most likely number 2. We'll be a number 1 seed. You want to be a number 1 seed. Number 1 seeds, the higher your seed, the higher the probability you advance. That's just the bottom line. They're saying that we're going to be in the West. I love the West. I'm out here in the West. Where are they going to go? San Diego? Probably not. Maybe LA. We'll be there. Oh, maybe San Francisco. Hey, Logan, you ever been to San Francisco?
Never been to San Fran.
Come on out. The Golden State Warriors play out here. We play like the Warriors.
I love
Walter
it.
Clayton Jr. He's like Steph Curry out there. So listen, keep winning. Maybe we're a basketball school now. Who knows? Todd Golden. That's the other thing. People are saying, we want Todd Golden to be our coach. No. First of all, y'all can't be stealing our coach because guess what? Y'all were all saying that he was something that he wasn't when the investigation was happening. We all stuck beside him. Okay? So he's going to stay here. He's probably earned a contract extension. Strickland's, what are you doing? Get the guy a contract extension. Get the guy a contract. Extend. It's an easy word. Extend. I love this guy. He's great.
Yeah, no, I agree. We just want to stay in control of our destiny, right? And the only way to do that is to win out. If you don't, I think the key though, EJ, is you got to beat Texas A&M. I think that's one of the key games there. Same thing with Alabama. Sure. We might be able to afford to drop another game, like just maybe one more, but you have to win against Texas A&M and Bama to stay up there. But yeah, goal is to win out, stay healthy, do our thing. Really proud of this basketball team, killing it, man. What we love to see. Yeah, EJ, any last things you wanna talk about?
We be hooping.
Yes,
man,
sir.
we be hooping. And then next year, we're going to be in the San Diego Thanksgiving tournament. So we're going to do Thanksgiving out here. Hey, you should come.
Yeah, dude.
Thanksgiving in San Diego. I think we're playing Kansas. Kansas is a big name team. So that was confirmed a few weeks ago. The Gator bar here in, funny story, everybody. So the Alabama bar here in San Diego was incredible. When I went, it was like, wow, this is like luxury. They had 2 huge TV screens. The bar went out of business. So now the Alabama people are kicking us out of our bar.
What?
And they're taking the Gator bar. Yeah.
What?
So we're like, what the hell? Now, as it goes, like the teams that are really good typically have more fans, right? So that's why they're, the Gators, we haven't really, been great. So we don't really bring as many fans. We bring a lot of people, but they're bringing like 100 people. We're probably bringing like 40.
Right. Dang, man.
So now we've got to find a new bar. So we'll see what happens. We love our Gator bar, but
they went out of business.
Yeah, I was just
like, so you're gonna bring that negativity to the greatest bar out there, dude? Insane, man. I hope they lose now.
And that's the thing. Like they weren't even good that well. They were. Yeah, I feel like if we played Alabama, we probably could have beat them. Don't you think?
Oh, football? Is that what we're talking about? Yeah. 100%. Milroe would not have been able to do really much. I don't know. We were not great against rushing quarterbacks, but I think we could have won. I do. I think we could have had it. If Oklahoma can hold them to 3 points, I would say that we could beat Bama, no question.
Yeah,
But
I think so too. I think so too. Uh, we'll see. I mean, wait, is Milroe's leaving? So they
yeah, he's
got
gone.
another quarterback. Okay, so they
They
got a new quarterback.
we talked about that when we did our top 25. They don't know who their quarterback is. There's the two guys already on their roster. They feel confident in that the quarterback is already on their roster. So we'll see. Two young guys.
DeBoer, man, let me tell you, they are not happy with him,
Nope. It's gonna
which
be
is
interesting.
which is tough because it's like when you follow a legend, you're trash.
Yep.
So,
That's
but I
it.
don't know. It was a good business decision because if you think about it, he goes there, they sign him a 10-year contract worth I don't know how much. Wait, was it 10-year? I don't know, but
It's like
10 million a
yeah.
year. You're guaranteed 50. Hey, if I sign on the dotted line, I get 50 million bucks.
Yep.
I care less about winning these games. And if they want to boo me off the stage, they boo me off the stage. Hey, give me 50 for $50 million. I'll get booed off the stage for $50 million because guess what? They'll forget all about me in 2 years anyway.
Yeah.
So I love it.
Yeah. No, literally, dude. It's like keep coming, baby. I got my money. I got my beautiful home waiting for me. Yeah, that's great. That's great. I agree. I think it's a scary. I mean, for your longevity as a coach, if you get fired from Bama, you can go be an offensive coordinator somewhere, less pressure. You don't have as much control, but like, dude, these coordinators now, they're making $2 million a year. That's like more than a lot of head coaches right now in college football. Yeah, no, you can be a successful, happy coordinator. Where the pressure is not as much on you, and you don't get as much hate from the fans. Usually it's the head coach catching all the flack. But yeah, that's the Gator basketball update, man. Love it. Very excited to see what happens with them. Going to be exciting. Last thing we could just touch on this because we're at about 2 hours now. The Super Bowl. Like I said, a buddy of mine, big Eagles fan, so I watched it with him and some of his buddies, and we went out to a little bar. The bar we went to, man, it's like a bar, but also like a little restaurant. There was no one there. I felt like I was in like a like a weird movie, like in those bar scenes where there's not a lot of people there, because it's like so quiet. I was like, I've never seen the place this empty before. But we went there, we watched it, really fun time, man. Yeah, this was a very exciting. Not it wasn't a fun game to watch because it was so lopsided. I mean, you had the Eagles right from the get go just destroying the Chiefs, and I was like, you know what? Okay, maybe the Chiefs might have a comeback. 28-3, the classic. Tom Brady and the Patriots against the Falcons in 2017. They came back and the score got very similar to that. It was like 26 or something like that. And I was like, hey, this is like almost the same situation. But Patrick Mahomes had no time in the pocket. The Eagles front seven was dominating. The two new additions on the Eagles defense, Cooper DeJean, and I think is it not Josh Braun? That's an old Gator player. Something Braun. He's the linebacker. Dude has been in the NFL for like 5 years, maybe even longer than that. Nobody knew who he was. He went from like the 357th ranked player on fantasy to becoming like the number one linebacker in the NFL. And he gets the interception as well. And yeah, man, just a really, really cool game to watch if you love offense, I guess, because the Eagles offense was having fun. Saquon was actually pretty limited in this game. He had a really cool catch, but I think the Chiefs defense was like, let's stop this man, and because of that, it opened up the field for Jalen Hurts to have a pretty solid game.
Yeah, man, Super Bowl. So 2 years, Super Bowl will be on Valentine's Day, so that'll
Hey,
be interesting. But yeah, man, uh, I'm happy for the Eagles. I mean, the Chiefs. People were like, "Yeah, Chiefs." Uh, and when the game first started, I think I texted you because I was like, "Yep, the
yeah,
refs are rigging this game," because it was like they called pass interference on the Eagles, and I was like,
so bad.
they didn't even touch the guy, but that didn't matter. The Eagles defense, it just goes back to I remember I think it was like 14 years ago. The Tom Brady Patriots were trying to go undefeated. I think they were trying to go like 18-0, 19-0 or something like that. And I was like, okay, they're going to do it. But they couldn't do it because the Giants' defensive line was just unrelenting. And Tom Brady, just as great as he is, did not have any time to throw. And the Eli Manning powered their way to winning that game. That's what happened in this game. And you kind of figured, you kind of found out the Eagles learned from a couple years ago. Okay, we're really good. How do we add to the roster over the next couple years to be able to beat that team? Because that is the team we're going to have to beat. Mm-hmm. And what do they figure out? Just like you said, we got to have some defensive ends that do not let that little joker run around in the backfield like a headless chicken, chucking up the ball for first downs every time. We got to bring his butt down. And that's exactly what I was just like, I've never seen anyone do this.
It was insane.
They are coming from, it was only 4 guys. They were coming after him like, when you can get pressure with your front 4 and have 7 guys back there just waiting to lay somebody out, that's the formula for beating the Chiefs, which is incredible. But here's the deal. The Chiefs, Andy Reid, you usually make adjustments. It was too late, brother. What were you doing out there? You're national NBA, NFL, national Super Bowl person. Quick screens. Get the ball out of the hands quick. He was dropping back in the pocket and then got bull rushed. So anyway, I was thinking to myself, okay, Chiefs are definitely going to come back because they're going to make some adjustments. This D-line is not going to keep this up. Didn't matter. Now, I will say this real quick. So Super Bowl Monday is usually the most called out day on work. You know, people are like, oh, I'm sick, I'm hungover. But, you know, the game was over so early, everybody came to work.
Traffic was still heavy. Traffic felt like an actual Monday. Yeah. No, yeah, dude, I totally agree. The only reason that the Chiefs scored, 22 points? I think it was 22-40, yeah. Was because, you know, the Eagles defense started playing more conservative and they were able to hit some of these shots, and they had different guys playing on the defensive line. But yeah, when they had their actual guys in there, the Eagles, man, like you said, they literally did not have to blitz once in this entire game, which is insane. You have guys like Zach Braun, that's his name, Josh Sweat, who honestly I think was 3rd for MVP voting. And yeah, I mean, you know, Jordan Davis, you know, a couple of these Georgia guys on the team, man. I mean, they just, they played phenomenally, and it doesn't matter who you put back there at quarterback, you're not going to be able to step back and throw. I saw a crazy stat with I forgot how many quarterback hurries they had on Patrick Mahomes, but it was like almost every single time he dropped back, like literally almost every single time. There wasn't one time where he had a clean pocket. Travis Kelce could not really get open. Like you said, it was weird. They didn't change up their play calling at all. It was Patrick drop back and improvise.
They kept dropping back, and I'm like, okay, this is the NFL. You guys actually get paid millions of dollars to analytics and all that.
Right.
You didn't know that dropping back in the pocket was clearly what they decided they were going to take away. Rigged.
I think I think by the time they wanted to make those adjustments, they were already down by 4 scores. They're like, oh, dude, we got to do something here. You know what I mean? Genuinely, I think that's what their thought process was. But yeah, no, great game by the Eagles. Great season by them. We'll see after a tough season last year where they were so good and then they lost like 7 games in a row, something insane. Forgot what happened. But yeah, next year it's going to be a fun one, man. I've watched a little bit more NFL and it's going to be exciting going forward. But yeah, Super Bowl. Great win by the Eagles. EJ, any last things you want to mention to everyone out there, man?
I think I'm going to put something out on the basketball analytics. Maybe it'll be a short on YouTube, so keep a lookout for that. Um, yeah, man, and we'll keep covering the team and see where it goes, and hopefully we can be as highly ranked as Sweet Magnolias on
Hey, yes,
Netflix.
sir. We were number one. We got dethroned. But we're still up there, baby. We're still up there. Appreciate the plug, EJ.
Still top 10. Still
Still
top
top
10.
10. Still top 10. But yeah, no, we love you guys, man. Thank you so much for joining. Make sure you guys check out. We do these live not every Sunday, but we'll be posting when we do go live at 12, right around noon. So you